Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is a little bit different. I am using just this one stamp set. This is Perfect Blend from Gina K Designs, and we're going to do 3 cards. So in our last video, we talked a lot about card design, and it seemed to be something that you guys were pretty interested in. And so we're going to make 3 cards with this one stamp set, and we're going to use every image in it. I don't do this so much anymore, but this is how I used to do it when I was a new card maker, and so I kind of thought I would touch back on that. This is just a piece of copy paper folded in half, and I am measuring out, not perfectly by any means, but just kind of, I knew I was going to do 3, give myself 3 kind of rectangles, and then I'm just going to sketch in the ideas that I have for a card, and I found, especially when I was a new card maker, that this was really helpful for me to kind of get a visual about what I wanted to do. So for the first card, I knew that I was going to use just one image, and I was going to have a more interesting kind of background, some ink blending, some stamping, tone-on-tone stamping, and using one of the larger sentiments. For the second card, I was going to do a horizontal card with 3 of the images kind of spread out and the sentiment underneath it. And then for the fourth card, I was going to do a 1-layer card with a little bit of grounding, 3 of the images clustered together, and then again, one of the larger sentiments. So we stayed pretty true to this for the card making portion of it, but not 100%, and I'll show you how I had to adapt it. So we are starting with the first sketch first, and for this I have taken the little coffee beans, and I am stamping them with an acrylic block just because it's faster than using the MISTI, but I like the support that the foam underneath the MISTI gives me, and so that's why I chose to stamp it still inside there. Alternatively, I could have just taken the foam out and used it. But anywho, I'm just kind of turning it different ways. I'm not worried about filling in the center. I'm more concerned about the just the edges of it, because I know that my panel is going to cover up the middle of it. And I do like, somebody had asked me, I think it was it Brandon? I think it was Brandon, asked me about tone-on-tone stamping. Love tone-on-tone stamping. I'm here for it. Most of the time, though, I don't use a watermark ink. I do use a similar color of ink. And that's just because typically I find that I like the image better. So once that is done, you could use it just like this, but to me, it's a little bit of a stark contrast, and I didn't want my background kind of stealing the show. I wanted it to be a bit more subdued, and so I'm going to use my ink blending brushes to just kind of knock this back a little bit with a couple of distressing colors that match this same kind of craft cardstock vibe I've got going on. Couple of things I did want to mention. So I like this stamp set, and in fact, I liked it so much that I actually purchased 2 of them. So I have one to give away. And so I'm going to do that. So if you would like to be considered for the giveaway, leave a comment below on the YouTube. What question should we answer? Well, how about, what is your favorite kind of coffee? And if you are not a coffee drinker, do you like a tea, a something? That's what I'm going to go with. My go-to, and right now it's really a struggle to find, I'm going to be honest with you, is I like just my Dunkin' Donuts coffee, or I go to the Dunkin' Donuts and get the coffee. But if I'm at home, I'm just making a K-cup, and my go-to is the Dunkin' Donuts extra sugar creamer. And if I can't find that, then I buy the sweet cream creamer with sugar, cream and sugar in my coffee. Basically, sugar flavored coffee water is pretty much what I drink, and I'm happy about that. But anyway, so let's do that. And then I don't think it'll let you leave your emails. How will I contact you? I'll just tell you in the next video who won, and then you can email me. I think that's how we'll do it. Okay, moving on. So here I have this lattice embossing folder. This is also from Gina K. And so for the second card, we are going to add some texture into the background. This is going to be, again, like a tone on tone. I'm doing a white on white. and I'm good with that, but adding the texture in the background just makes it a little bit more interesting. And I think that's something that people kind of struggle with when they're putting a card together, is what is too much, what's not enough. And I'm more of a clean and simple, sometimes clean and layered. And so I don't like a lot of things that are detracting from my main image. Here, this is actually so the lattice is for the second card sketch. This one is the third card. And I have my Post-it note tape because I like it for a straight edge, but I actually cut it a little bit short. So I had to kind of finagle it a little bit to get it to lay down to make a straight line, and then use another piece of Post-it note tape to complete the line. That was silly on my part. I should have measured better. But then I'm going to use the same browns to create my ground or my countertop for this card, using those same distress inks. You can use any inks that you have, whatever you like that blends well. I bought these Gina K blending brushes quite some time ago and had never really used them, and I am a pretty big fan. I like these ones. They pick up a good amount of color and they leave a really soft blend, which I like. So yeah, this was a good purchase for me. Speaking of Gina, she actually has a new release coming out tonight. So it's her, I believe it's got some holiday stuff in it, which will be amazing. So I will link her new release below if you'd like to head over and check that out. And then the other thing that I almost did, but I didn't do, here I'm going to stamp these, and I'm stamping them in Gina K's amalgam ink, which is safe for alcohol markers, because I'm going to be doing some Copa coloring. When I make multiple cards, you guys know that I really like for them to match, especially for my photography, so that they look like they go together. And so we're going to be using a little bit more of those fall color combinations we've looked at, and then adding in a few more. I ultimately ended up stamping all 3 of these images 3 times, just so I would have enough to work with. But anywho, so when I was going to do this video, I was going to set it as a premiere. What do you guys think about this? So the premiere is basically, you post the video to go up, and then you can have a live chat while you're watching the video when it goes up. That I would also be there for the chat, for you guys can ask any questions or things like that. And I'd be very interested to see if that's something you're interested in. I do realize time zones are kind of a problem. I'm in the Eastern time zone, and so I know some of you are not. Another thing for timing that I think we need to figure out is I would like to start doing lives. And this is something that we have talked about in the past, but as we're kind of progressing toward the beginning of the end of the year, beginning of a new year, I'm trying to get my ducks in a row. Normally my ducks are just wild. There's no row for my ducks. They're just crazy all over. And honestly, that may continue. But I would like to start doing some lives, because back in the day, I used to do Periscope and I loved doing them. They were so much fun to be able to kind of interact with you guys. I will do my lives on YouTube, I think, because that just makes the most sense for me. That's where the majority of my following is. So I won't do it on like Instagram or Facebook. I'll do it here on YouTube. And so, yeah, I think we need to figure out a time that will work for that. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask you guys is, how do you feel about making a card together? That's really kind of what I would like to do the lives, but like a week prior to that, kind of put out a supply list. Hey, this is what I'm going to be working on. This is the card we're going to be making. So that way you guys can make along with me if you want. So you can kind of ask real-time questions as it's happening. Because I am not a person who is a fan of lives, watching lives. For the most part, I think I just like the same things that most people do, all of the hellos in the beginning, and like just get into what you're doing so I can see what you're doing. Not that I don't enjoy the chatting or like the conversation with other people. I do, but I don't want to listen, for 5-10 minutes while you say hello to Sherry in Idaho 6 times. Like, I'm not interested in that. Not that that seems to be a problem for some other people. Apparently other people it doesn't bother. I'm just one of those people, I guess, where I'm like, hey, I'm here to see what you're making. Show me what you're making. And so I will definitely try not to be one of those people. There is a minute or two in the beginning where you have to kind of wait for people to join before you start getting too much into anything, which I get. And I understand that there'll be like a buffer period. But so I would really enjoy your thoughts on that. Back to the card real quick. So here at this point, we've done a couple of warm grays, a couple of cool grays for the cup, for the whipped cream, for the lid. This is our first kind of color combination for fall. I really like this blue-green combination. This is the B70 or BG, I'm sorry, BG blue-green 70 family. This is 72, 75, and 78. Really like this color combination for fall. And then this purple one is also new for me. New for me lately. It's a V15, 17, and then a BV08. And I like this one as well. It very much reminds me of like the Villainous Potion Distressing color. Side note, several of you have asked me for Copic colors that match the Distress inks, and I am going to try to figure that out for you. I am going to try to dope that out and post that so that you guys can see. I don't necessarily know that it'll be a video, because how would I make a card in that same amount of time while sharing that? If you want to see a video, it would pretty much just be matching out the colors. And so you'll have to tell me if you'd be interested in watching that, because I'm not really sure how that would go over. But yeah, so a lot of things that I've been thinking about, on the horizon for ways that I would like to do different things. And I think that oh look, my RV 52 is upside down. My bad. Flip that around. It's an RV 52, 55, and 66. And I have used this combination before for the pinks. But I have just been trying to think about what I would like to do. For those of you who saw, we talked about this in the last video, the illustration that I did was just like a little corner illustration that I was able to turn into a digital image. I actually did that for my own glass board that's you see in my background, and my background's been the same for years. It's a grid paper pad because I like the white background. But that does mean that I have to switch in between like my watercolor mat, and then I have to replace the papers as I'm using them. You know what I mean? Like I'm coloring on top of them. I get marks on them. I have to tear the sheet off. And so it ends up being something that I have to invest in for quite a bit of money to continually replace these pads. And so I saw my friend Lydia had actually, hers was a white Lydia Fiedler. If you don't watch her videos, watch them. She's hysterical. So much talent and so much kindness, and I just adore her. But anyway, I was watching one of her videos, and I saw her background, and I was like, what is that? And it had like flowers on it. It was super pretty, but it was like a bright white. And so I sent her a text message, and I was like, girlfriend, what are you crafted on? And so she told me, and I went and looked at their website, and I saw that there was one that was a custom artwork. And so that is why I drew what I drew. The illustration that I drew is actually all of my family's, mine, my husband's, my son's, and my daughter's birth flowers. So I am the gladiolus, Eric is the violets, Nathan is the lily of the valley and Caitlin is the peony. And that's how I picked the design for my glass board. And then I email it to them, they put it on the glass board and send the glass board to me, which I'm super excited about. I cannot wait for it to get here, because as you guys know, we're coming up on this craft room redo, and that will be just a nice thing to have, and then I won't have to continually replace it. Plus they're magnetic, which I think will just be the bee's knees for when I am doing ink blending. I won't have to hold it with my hand, I can just magnet it, and so that's super cool. But anywho, they had reached out to me after I placed my order and were like, hey, we noticed that you have a pretty good, let's talk about this. So here, I just wanted to show you that, like, you can make your own fun pottery. It doesn't have to be boring or one color or whatever. So with this particular one, I decided that I was going to combine the pink and the golden yellow just to make it a little bit more fun. But like, you can make your ceramics, your serving dishes, you can make them whatever color you want. I think the teal would be really pretty too. But anywho, this is what I did. I just wanted to touch on that I stuck mostly to one colors just so that they would all kind of be matchy-matchy, but you certainly do not have to by any stretch of the imagination. So anyway, they reached out to me after I placed my order, and she was like, I noticed you have a pretty good following on YouTube, but not to be creepy, but we would like to offer you a coupon code. And so if that's something, I haven't emailed her back yet to say yay or nay, because I don't know how I feel about it. I haven't gotten the product yet. But if I get it and I am happy with the way that it is and it works, let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. You know, I'm all about saving a buck where I can. And if I can help you do that, I'm here for it. So once the coloring is finished, I did use my white gel pen to add in just a couple of patterns to the cups just to make them a little bit more interesting. And then, of course, I outlined them because that's what I do. I like a bold black outline. One of the things that is, it may be an issue for some people, it may not, but I don't believe that there are dies that match the stamp set. Fussy cutting doesn't bother me, so I chose to just fussy cut them. I certainly could have masked them in most of the cards that I made today, but if you're somebody who's like, I have to have the dies with the stamps, this stamp set's not for you. So tips for fussy cutting: cut with your dominant hand, hold the paper in your non-dominant hand, and turn the paper, not the scissors. It'll give you a smoother cut. And then also cut them down to smaller pieces so you're not like having to pull your scissors against the paper where you get more tearing versus cutting. And then I proceeded to cut all of them out. The steam on the coffee mug was a little bit tricky, but I just cut them as one piece. I didn't cut them apart, and that did make it a little bit easier. Once I was done cutting them out, I used my Tuxedo Memento black marker. You want to use a water-based marker, not an alcohol marker, to go around and just color the edges, because if you use an alcohol marker, it will bleed into your image. A water-based marker is not going to do that. If this holding it in your hand isn't something that works for you, you can also put it down on a scrap piece of paper and trace it. So at this point, I'm kind of lining them up. You have to excuse me, my allergies are acting up again. No big shock if you're here on my channel. So the first and the third were exactly how I wanted it. This second one gave me a couple of fits. I felt like it looked too plain and the sentiment didn't work. It would have been better with a long sentiment underneath it, but I didn't have a long sentiment. So I had to adjust. And the way that I did that was putting 2 on one side and then 1 on the other, putting the sentiment in between. This gave me 4 elements, which I don't really love. I like having odd numbers, but it did still work. And then I tried it on a couple of different backgrounds. Ultimately, any one of these would have worked, but I decided that I didn't like the white cutting across the entire card panel. And so I did trim that down. And then what that gave me basically was the horizontal version of the first card. And I did want it to be a little bit different. So it's still a block of white on a block of craft, but they're like, I didn't want it to be exactly the same. So I was like, okay, I gotta switch it up somehow. And so I decided that I was going to matte my white rectangle with the craft paper and then put it on the texture. And I liked that much better, because it broke it up. So I still had some texture and interest in the background, but it wasn't an exact replica of the other card. And also it wasn't too boring. The white on white looked a little boring. So I did add some shading to that craft piece with the same distressing so everything wouldn't match, as we've talked about. I have a problem. And then once I was happy with that, I can move on to then stamping my sentiments. I left everything in place to move it into my MISTI so I could get my placement right for the stamping of my sentiment. And then, don't mind my head here, once I was happy with where it was, I could go ahead and remove those images and then just stamp this down. And then I did the same for all of them. I stamped every single one of them twice, just to make sure that I had a good bold black sentiment, since I had never stamped these before. I bought this thing twice and I've never stamped it before. Sad. But I did that for all of them. So yeah, just if you guys are interested in that coupon code, once I get it back and I know I'm happy with it, wait until I'm sure. I don't want to promote something that I don't love. But if you think you'll be interested in that, I never bought the Tim Holtz one because I don't like the black. I wanted a white. And so that's just why I never did it. And I just stuck with my grid paper. But now this other place has a white option and I'm here for that. So yeah, so now we're going to go into the card building. This, for the most part, is pretty straightforward. I didn't do anything too crazy. This is the panel for my coffee bean background, and I used the picket fence extra wide foam tape to pop this up. This foam tape is thicker than some of the other ones I own. So I use a bunch of different dimensional adhesive. It's just going to depend on what you're interested in. For me, I really like that it's extra wide and it makes it nice and easy to do large panels. I am using my Gina K Connect glue to attach my coffee cup, and then I am going to ground my image with a little bit of Copic coloring, because I didn't want it to look like it was just floating in the air. Not a big fan of the floating image. So I'm going to put that one down. And then you'll notice when I'm doing the shadow, I do kind of stretch it out a little bit. This is creating that balance to even out the fact that I have a large sentiment in the left and a smaller coffee cup in the right. That shadow is going to help to balance my design on the bottom so that it doesn't look like it's this lone little coffee cup. It's going to make the image appear to take up more space. So for this one, I glued my olive green coffee cup down flat. And then I'm using two different foam adhesives. The other one is the Altenew, which is a little bit thinner and smushier. And then for the coffee cup in the forefront, I went back to that same picket fence one that is just a little bit higher. And again, I put in a shadow. This time I did use my browns. These are the same browns that I used to put the coffee in the cup on the image, because my countertop was brown, and so it made sense to use that same color family. In doing this with my images already adhered, it did create a little bit of trouble trying to get everything blended out. So you may want to do it, just kind of hold your image in place, draw your line for your darkest shadow, and then remove them, blend them out, and then adhere them. I didn't do that. So for this one, I am just adhering my rectangle panel to its craft mat. Well, I haven't matted anything in a long time, but it needed it. It needed to be broken up from that background. So I adhered that flat, and then I used more of that dimensional adhesive to pop it up off of the embossed background. And just something to note, this isn't a 3D embossing folder, it's just a regular embossing folder. It is the lattice one, which typically if I'm going to buy an embossing folder, it's going to be a background that's pretty versatile and I can use with a lot of things if I'm going to invest my money in it. Not that embossing folders are a huge amount of money. They're actually one of the things that you can get a little bit cheaper that you can use lots of ways long term. So here, these ones I ended up adhering the majority of them flat. Actually, I think I adhered all of them flat, to be honest. I don't think I popped any of them up. I glued them all flat because I had already popped up the panel. And then I'm going to go back to those same warm gray markers to add in my shadow to ground those images, and just kind of make it look more cohesive in general. But ultimately, I was really happy with the way that all three of them came out. I think that creating more than one card with the same stamp set, like to know that you can, is super important if you're going to buy it. So yeah, then I added the shimmers and then I called them done. So I hope you guys learned a little bit of something. I hope that you will share your feedback with me on the premieres and as well as the lives, whether or not you want to do like a make along kind of thing, and the time. Also, don't forget to tell me your favorite coffee drink for a chance to win this stamp set. I will send it out to you probably with one of these cards, quite honestly. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate your time and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.